Welcome to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Allison McConnell, delighted to be joined this afternoon by Neil Lennon. Neil, if I'm correct in thinking this is a scene of a couple of your great Celtic goals?
Yeah, all two of them. Yeah, I scored at both ends, so happy hunting ground for me as a player.
Just how's it been going the last couple of weeks? How have you enjoyed being back into it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You know, it's been a lot of hard work. Enjoyed working with the players. You know, the people around the club have been excellent. You know, we've had some positive results, so we look like we're going to be in the championship next season, which was obviously the sole target, really. But we've improved performances as we've gone on, and yeah, it's been attritional. You know, the league's very, very tight at times, but there's been some really good performances along the way. But yeah, I've enjoyed every minute of it.
You take it to, you'll wait till the end of the season and then just make a decision on where it's going to go then from here?
Yeah, obviously we'll have discussions with the chairman and the owner about what their plans are for next season, and you know, if we're aligned, then it could be a good option for me.
Just to take you back to maybe the earlier parts of your career as Celtic manager, you gave a debut to James Forrest, a man who's now gone on to become the most decorated Celt of all time. What did you see in James as a kid coming through?
Oh, he just an abundance of talent. He was one of those players that would get you off your seat. He was so exciting to watch. He was brilliant with both feet. He was very, very quick. He had fantastic close control. But the one thing about Jamesy more than anything is he was a brilliant finisher. You know, his left foot, right foot, and his final ball was always excellent. He had great sort of technique as well. So he was an exceptional youngster, and he's gone on to prove he's an exceptional player. You know, this is a monumental achievement to be the most decorated footballer in Celtic's history. And that's a testament to his, you know, dedication first of all, but his belief in himself. He's had ups and downs throughout his time, which is normal, but he's come through it all, and he's still a great player to watch.
That's the thing. At some point in his Celtic career, it was almost as if he was a bit of a whipping boy. I think sometimes when you're a homegrown player and coming through, it can be quite hard.
It can, yeah, but he's, you know, I was hard on him sometimes. You know, just to get more out of him, but I always got a reaction, and a positive one, because I felt that he had just so much talent coming out of him. And whether it be at Celtic or whether he's done it for Scotland, you know, Champions League, Europa League, domestic, Rangers games, all the big games, he's been a huge player for Celtic in the last 10, 15 years. I'm so proud of him. It couldn't happen to a nicer boy. He keeps himself out of the limelight. You know, he's chasing the publicity. He's the first one in most mornings, and just thoroughly deserving of all the accolades that come his way.
One notable afternoon down at Rugby Park, Celtic were 3-0 down, and at half-time it came back to 3 each, but I remember you saying after it that James Forrest had been the guy that went on and made the difference.
He was amazing. He was only maybe 19, 20 at the time, but he dragged the team by the scruff of the neck and got us back into the game. But I have so many memories of him. You know, Rangers games he scored when it came back for the second spell, and in Lazio he scored a beautiful goal in Lazio. He scored in Russia for a first away win in the Champions League, and you know, see him score in semi-finals, finals. Very special player, very special career, and you know, I remember him making his debut at Motherwell, and I couldn't wait to get him on. And you know, he scored after, I think he'd been on the pitch for about 5 or 10 minutes. He scored a brilliant lob, so that sort of was the catalyst for what came after that, really.
And there will have been opportunities in his career, I'm assuming, to go elsewhere. It's so unusual now to have a player who has one club through their career.
Well, when you think of the modern day greats, Scott Brown, Callum McGregor, Jamesy, you know, these guys have all sort of dedicated their careers to Celtic, and you know, it takes a very special person and player to do something like that, and to be at the top for so long, week in, week out, year in, year out, and be so successful. So it's a measure of his temperament as well as his quality. And yeah, there was a lot of suitors for him, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, Premier League. But he's got his family here, you know, he's a very homegrown boy, very humble, and you know, it's been the Celtic's benefit, no question.
Did those moves ever look as though they were going to come to tennis? I remember at one point under Ronnie Dyle, it looked inevitable that he was going to go before then there was a shift within the club, and he said, but under your tenure, was there any...
There was absolutely no chance of me selling James Forrest. No chance. You know, he would have been one of my number ones in my first and second spell. Anytime I could get him on the pitch, whether I played him left, right, or even at 10. He would have played for me because I had so much faith in him and so much belief in his ability, and I would have rebuffed most offers. And there was a lot of interest, like I say, back in the day. But he signed new contracts along the way, and he's been well managed off the field. So yeah, it's been a real success story for him.
Does it take to play at Celtic for that length of time when you consider the scrutiny that you're under, the microscopic scrutiny that you're under day to day in every game, every performance?
Well, I think he sort of keeps himself away from all of that, doesn't listen to the noise, but he is mentally strong. Physically, he's looked after his body really well, even though he has had some real injury problems, particularly early on in his career. And, if you look at him now he's still very lean and strong and quick. But yeah, it takes a certain character. I think he's got, good family behind him as well. We've been ever so supportive of him. And he has had a few bumps along the way. He's been left out of squads or teams under different managers, but he's always come back and always been available. And then always made a huge impact on the team whenever it was called upon. I think if you talk to any of his teammates, they'll shine a huge light on him and the respect and admiration they have for him. But he talks with his feet. He does all his talking on the pitch, and he's done that. He's over 500 games and over 100 goals. It's a serious return. Particularly
when you look, as you've touched on it, you look at the iconic names that he now talks in terms of honours. It's extraordinary.
Okay, I'm glad. He deserves it. Although, you'd be loath to make comparisons. It's different generations, different times. But James, you can stand on his own 2 feet amongst any of them, really. With all the achievements, all the medals, I don't think it really mattered to him. It was just the joy of playing, really, and competing and making a difference for the team for him.
Obviously, Celtic are in a position they could go on now and win the domestic treble. It would be a third successive treble or a third treble for Brendan Rodgers. He'd be the first Celtic manager in history to win 3 trebles. Just how difficult is it to do that?
Well, when Mark O'Neill won it in 2001, it's the first time Celtic had won it for 29, 30 years. Yeah, so Brendan's coming, you're talking about doing it, 3 out of 4 years is incredible. And it's a testament to his management skills, his intelligence, and his way of leading the team and driving the narrative for that team. It'll be very special, when it comes, and it's a very difficult thing to do considering, the competition. People may say there's a lack of competition, but that's not on Celtic, it's on the rest to, compete and, make it really difficult for them. And it is difficult. Every team raises a game to play against Celtic week in, week out, and you have to overcome the hurdles, the pressure that brings, and also the criticism when it doesn't come.
Somebody mentioned that it was a tedious treble. Is there any such thing?
A tedious treble? I've never heard anything so ridiculous in all my life. I think it's very, very special to win a treble. And this is the standards that Celtic have set now. People get disappointed if they don't win a treble. That's how good they are. And like I say, for people to come out with those sort of comments, you're like, what's the word I'm looking for? Disingenuous. You don't realise the lengths and the studying and the preparation and the sacrifices that managers, players, staff have to make to achieve all of that.
Callum McGregor had said that he felt as though it was almost desensitised. People had become...
Yes, yeah. Just take it for granted, and you never can in football. And I think it'll be a remarkable achievement if they do it again. And it's a period of complete dominance for Celtic. And it wasn't always the case. So I say enjoy it while it lasts, because you never know what's around the corner in football.
And obviously the Rangers look as though they're in a point of new investment going into the club, and there could be a stronger challenge on the park. Is that good for Celtic?
I would say they will relish the challenge. I think it'll make them better. I think it'll make them even more motivated and more determined to go again. I think it's always important to freshen the squad up every year with new blood and new freshness coming in, and that's exactly what I think Brendan will do and what we look to do as well. So I think there's more exciting times ahead. They had a great campaign in Europe this year as well at the highest level. So, that augurs well for going forward.
There's been a bit of chat about Brendan and a couple of jobs down south. Do you think he still is enjoying the challenge at Celtic?
I don't know. I can't answer that for him, but I don't think there's any chance that he'll be leaving anytime soon.
In terms of manager of the years and player of the years, we get to this end of the season and people are always discussing who's up for individual awards. Do you find it hard to see past managers if you've gone and won trophies like that, or do you fall into the camp that maybe someone who like a John McGlynn who's...
Well, listen, I think John McGlynn has to be in the conversation. I think Brendan has to be in the conversation because he's done everything that's been asked of him. So again, it'll maybe come down to a matter of opinion, but those two would be the outstanding candidates for me.
And in terms of yourself, what's the difference between this Neil Lennon now, who's gone back into the dugout, and then the Neil who maybe just starting off for a manager?
I'm a lot more mellow and a lot more sort of patient, but I still have a unquenchable desire to win and achieve things. And if it's here, then over the next couple of years, then it's something I'm going to really embrace and look forward to.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you, Neil, for joining us in PLZ Soccer, and thanks to you for watching. Thank you.